The night sky was calm and quiet, but something strange was about to happen. Far above Earth, beyond what any telescope could see, a massive alien spaceship approached, hiding in the darkness of space. It was sleek, dark, and as silent as a shadow. The aliens inside were preparing for their mission with serious faces and cold determination. Their leaders, known as the Zeril, were experienced conquerors of worlds, and Earth was their new target. For many years, the Zeril had been searching for a planet rich in resources to fuel their growing empire. They saw humans as weak creatures with primitive technology and no real defense. The Zeril's leaders were confident that their advanced weapons, shiny armor, and powerful ships would make quick work of Earth's defenses. They expected the humans to surrender immediately once they realized that they couldn't win. As the spaceship slowed down near Earth, the Zeril scanners began to study the blue and green planet below. The screen filled with images of mountains, rivers, oceans, and cities lit up at night. The aliens had seen many planets before, but something about Earth seemed different. However, they pushed away any doubts, eager to claim this planet as another prize. Commander Kroll, the captain of the ship, was tall and intimidating. His face was covered in tough, silver skin, with sharp, dark eyes that missed nothing. Kroll was known for his ruthless tactics and for never showing fear. As he stood in the control room, he turned to his crew with a stern look. "Prepare for the first strike," he ordered. "We don't want to waste time on these humans." In their shiny armor, the alien soldiers obeyed, gathering their weapons and preparing their smaller ships. They couldn't wait to land on Earth, expecting the humans to be terrified and easy to defeat. To them, Earth was just another mission, another victory to add to their record. But Earth was different. The humans below were not going to surrender so easily. They had already noticed strange signals in the sky, and scientists and governments around the world were on high alert. The news began spreading, filling people with fear and curiosity. What was coming from space? What did these visitors want? As the Zeril prepared to make their entrance, they had no idea what awaited them on Earth. They thought they were prepared for any enemy, any weapon, any challenge. But what they would soon discover was something they had never seen before. Earth was not defenseless, and humans were not as weak as they looked. They had a weapon more powerful than anything the Zeril could imagine. The spaceship drifted closer, hidden behind Earth's moon, ready to strike. The Zeril's leaders grinned, thinking this mission would be quick and easy. Little did they know, their overconfidence would be their greatest weakness. They had underestimated Earth's people, a mistake they would soon regret. As the alien ship hovered near Earth, the humans below sensed a change. Scientists had detected strange energy signals coming from beyond the moon, signals that didn't match anything known to Earth. Military bases around the world received warnings, and leaders in every country gathered in urgent meetings. News channels buzzed with rumors of an unidentified object moving closer to Earth. People were anxious, but no one yet knew how serious this threat was. In a high-security room deep underground, Earth's top leaders held an emergency conference. Screens showed images of the strange energy signals, and everyone listened closely as scientists explained what they had found. "This isn't a meteor or a space anomaly," one scientist said, his voice steady but grim. "It's a spacecraft, an alien spacecraft." The room went silent. Some people looked shocked, while others nodded with determination. They had suspected life beyond Earth, but no one expected it to arrive so suddenly, and with possible hostile intentions. A general stood up, his face hard and serious. "If they're here to attack, we must be ready. We have to protect our planet, no matter what it takes." Across the globe, militaries prepared for the worst. Fighter jets were on standby, and submarines waited quietly in the oceans, ready to strike if needed. Satellites shifted positions, keeping a close watch on the alien ship's every move. Soldiers trained harder, knowing they might face an enemy like nothing Earth had ever seen. But even with all their weapons and strategies, Earth's leaders knew they were at a disadvantage. The alien technology was likely far more advanced. They didn't know what kind of weapons the aliens might bring or how powerful their defenses could be. As fear spread, leaders from different countries decided to form a united defense. They knew that only by standing together could they hope to survive. Meanwhile, a team of scientists and psychologists worked on a plan. They understood that brute force might not be enough. They needed something different, something that would catch the aliens off guard. After hours of intense discussion, they came up with an unusual idea. The weapon they would use wasn't a missile or a bomb. It was empathy. The leaders listened as the psychologists explained their plan. Aliens may be advanced, but they won't expect us to respond with kindness and understanding. Instead of meeting them with violence, we'll show them humanity's greatest strength, our ability to connect, to understand, and to care for others. The idea sounded strange, even foolish to some, but as they thought about it, they realized it might just work. If aliens expected a fight, perhaps a message of peace would surprise them, even weaken their resolve. They decided to combine their military defense with this new plan, using empathy and compassion as their secret weapon. As the alien ship inched closer, Earth prepared for a battle unlike any other. Humans were ready with both their weapons and their hearts, determined to protect their planet in every way possible. The world held its breath, waiting for the first contact, hoping that their unique plan would be enough to save them. The alien ship moved closer, finally breaking through Earth's atmosphere. Its enormous shadow fell over cities, forests, and oceans as it approached. People looked up, eyes wide with fear and awe, watching as the dark shape blocked the sun. It was clear now. This wasn't a peaceful visit. The aliens were here for something, and they didn't plan to leave until they got it. The alien commander, Krall, gave the order, and smaller ships began to detach, descending toward the surface like a swarm of metal bees. Each ship was armed with powerful energy weapons, glowing with a cold blue light. They were ready to strike and expected no resistance. But they were wrong. On the ground, human forces were ready. Tanks and fighter jets moved into position, forming lines of defense around major cities. Soldiers held their ground, gripping their weapons tightly, eyes fixed on the sky. The world watched as Earth's first battle against an alien race was about to begin. The first shot came from the aliens, a powerful beam that struck a military base, leaving a smoking crater in its place. But the humans didn't back down. Fighter jets soared into the sky, circling around the alien ships, dodging and weaving through enemy fire. They shot back with everything they had, even as the alien ships darted around them with terrifying speed and precision. Commander Krall watched from his ship, unimpressed. "These humans are stubborn," he muttered, "but they are no match for us." He was confident his forces would win within hours. But as the battle raged on, he noticed something strange. Despite the aliens' advanced technology, the humans kept fighting back with surprising resilience. Then, something unexpected happened. As the alien ships flew over a crowded city, a human broadcast signal interrupted their systems. Suddenly, every screen on the alien ships displayed images of Earth, children playing, families laughing, friends embracing. Soft music played, and the images showed the beauty of life on Earth. The alien soldiers hesitated, confused. They had been trained for war, but they had never seen anything like this. Some of them felt a strange, uncomfortable feeling in their chests, something they had no name for. For the first time, they began to see humans as more than just targets. Commander Krall was furious. "Ignore it," he shouted. "Continue the attack." But even he couldn't completely shake off the feeling. His hand paused for just a second before he gave the next order, a flicker of doubt in his eyes. On the ground, Earth's leaders saw the hesitation and knew their plan was working. The message of empathy, the images of love and life, it was affecting the aliens, breaking through their cold, logical minds. For the first time, Earth had the advantage, not through force, but through something stronger. The battle continued, but now, the aliens' movements were slower, uncertain. Humanity's unexpected weapon was taking effect, and the aliens were feeling something they had never felt before. The first battle was far from over, but Earth's unique strength was beginning to turn the tide. As the battle continued, strange things began happening among the alien soldiers. They had landed on Earth, expecting a quick victory, but something was different. In their minds, images of Earth and its people kept flashing. Scenes of humans laughing, families gathered, children playing in parks. These images left the aliens feeling unsettled. They didn't know why, but something inside them felt wrong. The alien warriors had been trained for cold efficiency, taught to see their enemies as mere obstacles. Yet now, looking at these images of human life, they couldn't ignore the strange warmth spreading through their chests. Some felt a sense of wonder, others a feeling close to sadness, and a few even felt what might be described as guilt. They had never felt emotions like this, and it was confusing, even frightening. Commander Krall, watching from his control room, noticed the change in his soldiers. They moved slower, their strikes less focused. He was furious. "What is wrong with you all?" he shouted, his voice sharp and commanding. "These humans are weak. Focus on the mission." But even Commander Krall couldn't shake off the strange feeling creeping into his mind. Images of human families holding hands, of children smiling at each other, played over and over on his screen. He tried to ignore them, tried to push the feelings down, but the images made him pause. Were these humans really so different? Why did they seem to care so much for each other, for life itself? One alien soldier, Kaxar, was especially affected. Sar had always been a loyal warrior, quick and efficient in every mission. But now, standing on the ground of this strange planet, he felt something new. He watched a human mother pull her child close, shielding them from the chaos. For the first time, Sar felt a pull in his heart. He realized he didn't want to hurt these creatures. He wanted to understand them. As he lowered his weapon, an alien officer noticed and shouted, "Sar, what are you doing? Follow orders." But Sar hesitated, his gaze fixed on the mother and child. He felt protective. Elsewhere on the battlefield, more and more aliens began to feel these emotions. Some even turned away from their targets, unable to fire. They were warriors, yet here on Earth, something powerful had cracked their hardened hearts. They could no longer see humans as mere enemies. They saw them as beings with hopes, dreams, and families. Earth's leaders noticed the shift as well. The aliens seemed less aggressive, more cautious. The unexpected weapon of empathy had begun to change the battlefield in ways no one could have predicted. Commander Krall struggled with his own growing doubts. He could feel his soldiers' hesitation, their confusion. For the first time in his career, he didn't know how to lead. He wondered if emotions were a weakness, or if they held a strength he'd never understood. The battlefield was quieting. Both sides stood in a strange, tense peace, each waiting to see what the other would do. And in that silence, a new kind of battle had begun, one for the hearts and minds of the alien invaders. As the battle raged on, Earth's leaders saw the change in the aliens. The once confident invaders were now hesitant, confused by emotions they had never experienced before. Instead of retreating, the humans decided to take a bold step forward. They would show the aliens something they hadn't expected: humanity's greatest strength. In the middle of the chaos, Earth's top scientists and diplomats worked together on a plan. They decided to broadcast a message directly to the alien fleet. It wasn't a message of anger, threats, or demands. No, the humans would send a message of peace, one that would show the aliens just how much they had underestimated the human race. The message began with a simple song. It was soft, peaceful, and carried the sounds of Earth. The wind blowing through trees, birds singing, and the laughter of children. The music played from every screen and speaker, filling the alien ships with strange, unfamiliar sounds. It wasn't like any noise the aliens had ever heard. There were no harsh, booming sounds or terrifying weapons being tested. Just music. But it was enough to make the aliens pause. Then the broadcast switched to images of Earth. It showed people from all around the world. People working together, families helping each other, and strangers smiling at one another. It wasn't perfect. There were struggles, hardships, and conflict on Earth, just like anywhere else. But the message was clear. Humanity cared for each other. They fought not because they hated, but because they wanted to protect what mattered most: their loved ones, their homes, their world. On the alien ships, the soldiers watched the images in stunned silence. They had never seen anything like this before. In their own world, emotions were controlled, kept in check by their cold logic. They had never been taught to value life the way humans did. But now, as they watched these images of kindness, compassion, and hope, something began to stir within them. Some of them felt touched. Commander Krall, who had watched his soldiers hesitate earlier, now found himself watching the broadcast. The images of human life struck him harder than he expected. He had always believed that power was the key to survival, that only the strong deserved to rule. But this was different. The humans were not strong in the way he had expected. They weren't invincible, they weren't unbeatable, but they were strong in ways he didn't understand. Tsar, one of the alien soldiers, couldn't take his eyes off the screen. He watched as a young girl handed a flower to an old man in a wheelchair, and something deep inside him stirred. It was a feeling he had never known, something he couldn't name. For the first time, Tsar felt a deep sense of connection to the humans. He felt the weight of their lives, their love, and their kindness. The message of peace continued to play, echoing through the alien ships. Earth wasn't asking for surrender. They weren't begging for mercy. They were simply showing the aliens who they really were. They were showing them that humanity was more than capable of defending itself. But more importantly, humanity was willing to fight for peace. On the battlefield, the fighting slowed. Aliens hesitated, unsure of what to do. The humans, meanwhile, waited, hoping their message would reach the hearts of the invaders. For the first time in the battle, there was a quiet sense of hope. As the humans' message of peace echoed through space, the alien fleet was plunged into confusion. Commander Krall paced back and forth in his control room, staring at the screens that displayed images of the human world. His mind raced, struggling to understand the strange feelings creeping into his thoughts. The broadcast was unlike anything he had ever experienced. The humans weren't begging for mercy, nor were they fighting back with all their strength. They were showing kindness. "This is a distraction," Krall muttered to himself. "It's nothing more than a trick." But even as he said the words, doubt gnawed at him. The hesitation in his soldiers was growing more apparent. They weren't attacking anymore, not with the same certainty. They seemed unsure, almost afraid to continue. Krall turned to his second-in-command, a cold-eyed officer named Zat. "What's happening with the troops? Why have they stopped attacking?" Zat hesitated. They're affected by the broadcast, sir. Some of them feel sympathy for the humans. They're confused. They don't know how to react. Krall's frustration grew. He had led countless successful conquests, but this was different. His soldiers, trained to be emotionless, had never been exposed to anything like the human message. The very idea of caring for an enemy, of feeling pity or love for them, was a weakness in the eyes of the Zeril. Krall had always believed that emotions were for the weak, and that strength came from pure logic. But now, logic wasn't enough. Back on the battlefield, the alien soldiers were experiencing a crisis of their own. Tsar, the soldier who had begun to question his mission, stood in a field, staring at the peaceful images from Earth. He had always followed orders without question. But now, as he watched a mother hold her child close, his heart ached. Why were they fighting these people? Why had they come to destroy them? Tsar wasn't alone in his feelings. Many of the soldiers began to doubt their mission. They had been told that the humans were weak, primitive, and unworthy of survival. But after seeing their lives, their love for each other, it was hard to believe that. Some of the aliens began to argue among themselves. "We should leave," one said. "We shouldn't be here. These humans don't deserve to die." Others were afraid. "If we disobey orders, we'll be punished," they warned. The Zeril don't forgive failure. But the seeds of doubt had already been planted. Commander Krall's command was beginning to unravel. His soldiers were no longer united in their mission, and the bond they once shared as warriors was weakening. The once organized fleet was now in chaos, with soldiers refusing to fight, and some even retreating. Krall could feel his grip on the situation slipping. His mind raced as he tried to regain control. He knew his fleet could still destroy Earth with its weapons, but now he wasn't sure if that was what he wanted. What had seemed like a simple conquest was now turning into an internal crisis. Was the strength of his people worth the destruction of another world? Was victory worth losing their souls? On the ground, humans watched as the aliens faltered. They didn't know exactly what was happening, but they saw the hesitation. They knew their message of peace had gotten through. But would it be enough to stop the invasion entirely? The crisis in the alien fleet deepened as Commander Krall sat in his command chair, staring at the chaos unfolding across the screens. His soldiers were no longer a unified force. Some of them had completely stopped fighting, and others had begun to retreat. The battlefield was turning into a mess of confusion and uncertainty. Krall gripped the arms of his chair, his mind racing. He had always believed that his people, the Zeril, were invincible. They had conquered countless worlds, leaving no survivors behind. But this was different. The humans, despite their seemingly weak technology and primitive ways, had something his people did not: heart. They had shown kindness and compassion, things that Krall had never understood. And now those very things were weakening his fleet. In his control room, Zat, his second-in-command, stood silent, watching the screen. She could see the same hesitation in the soldiers. "Sir, we need to make a decision," she said softly, her voice cautious. "Our forces are splintering. If we don't act soon, we might lose everything." Krall looked at her, a sense of desperation creeping into his mind. "What do you suggest, Zat?" Zat didn't reply immediately. Instead, she turned to the screen that showed the humans' message of peace. She had watched it just like everyone else, and something in her had shifted. The images of the human world, the love and hope they showed, had begun to tear at her own heart. She wasn't sure when it happened, but she no longer wanted to destroy them. Maybe we don't have to fight them," she said, her voice trembling slightly. Krall stared at her, his eyes narrowed. "You're suggesting we surrender? We abandon our mission?" Zat didn't flinch. "Not surrender, sir, but we can't keep fighting them. We have lost our purpose. The humans are not our enemies. Maybe we should listen to them. Maybe there's another way." Krall's thoughts raced. His entire life had been built on the idea that only the strong survive, that conquering others was the path to power. Yet now, his own soldiers were questioning that. His world was on the brink of losing everything he had worked for. But then something deep inside him stirred. He thought back to the images of Earth, the laughter of children, the families protecting each other. He thought of Tar, the soldier who had refused to fight, who had started questioning everything. Krall knew he could no longer ignore the truth. These humans were not the monsters they had believed them to be. He stood up, a sudden decision filling his mind. "Prepare to send a message," Krall ordered, his voice firm. "We are going to make a choice, a bold choice. We will offer them peace. We will leave this planet alone." Zat blinked in surprise. "Sir." Krall turned to face her, his expression resolute. "If we destroy them, we lose everything that makes us who we are. The humans have shown us something we never understood. They have shown us that there is more to life than just conquering." With a deep breath, Krall gave the command to send the message of peace. His fleet, though hesitant, would follow his lead. It was a choice that would change the fate of both their worlds forever. They could choose to fight, to destroy, or they could choose to listen. And Krall, for the first time, was choosing to listen. The message of peace from Commander Krall had shocked both his soldiers and the humans on Earth. For the first time in the history of the Zeril, their leader had chosen not to conquer but to make peace. The alien fleet, still hovering above Earth, had turned from an unstoppable force into a group of uncertain visitors. They were no longer invaders. They were guests. Back on Earth, the leaders of every nation watched as Krall's message appeared on their screens. He spoke clearly and directly, his voice steady, though tinged with something that hadn't been there before: vulnerability. "We have made a mistake," he said. "We came to destroy your world, but we now see that your strength is not in weapons or power. It is in your hearts, your love for one another. We offer you peace. We wish to learn from you, and if you allow it, we wish to build a future together." There was silence. No one knew what to say at first. The people of Earth had prepared for war, for destruction, for the worst. But now they were hearing something they never expected. An alien race reaching out, asking for friendship. The leaders hesitated, but then one by one, they agreed. Earth's leaders sent a reply, inviting the Zeril to meet and talk about what peace between their worlds could look like. As the days passed, the alien fleet slowly descended, and the first contact began. The meeting took place in an open field where humans and aliens stood across from each other. The humans were cautious but curious. They didn't know what to expect. Could they trust these aliens who had just a short time ago wanted to destroy them? Commander Krall stepped forward, flanked by his officers, including Xar, the soldier who had first questioned the mission. Krall's gaze swept across the crowd of humans, his eyes filled with a mixture of guilt and hope. He had brought his people here not to demand, but to offer. He had no idea what would happen next, but he was ready to try. A human representative, a woman named Maria, stepped forward. She was one of the diplomats who had helped send the message of peace to the aliens. She spoke with a calm but firm voice. "We've seen what you've done," she said. "We've seen how you tried to destroy us. But we've also seen how you've changed. We are willing to give you a chance. We believe that everyone can change. And maybe, just maybe, we can help each other." Krall nodded. The words were simple, but they carried a powerful meaning. It wasn't just about forgiveness. It was about trust, hope, and the possibility of a future where they could work together. He looked around at his soldiers, many of whom had begun to understand what he had learned. Strength wasn't only about power, it was about connection. As the humans and aliens stood in that field, an invisible bond began to form. Both sides were wary, unsure of how to begin. But as they shared their hopes, their dreams, and their stories, the seeds of a new friendship were planted. It would take time, trust, and effort, but for the first time, both species had chosen to build something positive. Xar, standing by Krall's side, couldn't help but smile. He had never imagined that one day he would be standing here, offering his hand to the humans. But in that moment, he realized that peace wasn't just the absence of war. It was the presence of understanding. And for the first time, he felt hopeful for the future. Years had passed since the day when the alien fleet first arrived above Earth. Commander Krall and his soldiers had chosen peace, and that choice had changed everything. The war that could have destroyed two worlds had instead sparked the beginning of something much greater. A lasting friendship between humanity and the Zeril. The humans and aliens had worked together to build a new world, one where they could share knowledge, ideas, and resources. The Zeril taught humans about advanced technology, while humans shared their deep understanding of emotions, creativity, and the power of community. Together, they developed new ways to travel through space, exploring the stars in ways neither species could have done alone. Krall, once the leader of a conquering force, had become a symbol of change. He was no longer just a commander. He was an ambassador for peace, traveling between Earth and Zeril homeworld to speak of the importance of unity. The soldiers who had once fought against humanity were now living side by side with humans, learning from each other and working together for a brighter future. Star, who had questioned the mission from the very beginning, had become one of the greatest supporters of the peace between their worlds. He had returned to Earth many times, visiting human cities and seeing how far they had come in such a short time. It was hard to believe that just a few years ago, his people had been ready to destroy these humans. Now he called them his friends. One day, as Kral and Sar stood on Earth, looking up at the sky, they couldn't help but feel a deep sense of pride. The two species, once enemies, had found common ground. They had learned that strength wasn't about power. It was about understanding, compassion, and the ability to change. A small group of children, both human and alien, ran past them, laughing as they played together. The scene reminded Kral of the first time he had seen humans interacting, how their simple love for each other had made him doubt everything he had ever known. Now, as he watched these children, he knew that Earth and the Zeril had built something truly remarkable. "We did it," Sar said softly, a smile on his face. "We changed everything." Kral nodded, his heart filled with a rare emotion. Hope. Yes, we did. And it's just the beginning. The story of the alien invasion, the battle for Earth, and the choice to embrace peace was no longer just a story of war and destruction. It was a story of redemption, of understanding, and of the power of second chances. It was a story that would be told for generations to come, not just on Earth, but on Zeril's homeworld as well. The tale of how two species, once on the brink of annihilation, came together to build something better than either could have imagined. As the sun set over the horizon, Kral and Sar stood side by side, watching the children play. They had chosen peace, and in doing so, had created a future full of possibilities. And in their hearts, they knew that this story, their story, would live on forever.